what we have over here with us is millet. The millet that I'm using today is Kodo. As you can see, the Kodo millet is very fine and it cooks relatively quicker than say foxtail millet or bajra, other millets. So it works as a really nice replacement for upma. In this day and age, since many people have digestive sensitivities and a lot of us are struggling with getting ourselves and our blood chemistry and immunity back in order, some of us are staying away from wheat or at least reducing wheat so that we can have a healthier digestion and immunity. So this is a great way to replace like your wheat suji with Kodo millet in an upma dish which tastes exactly the same. The only difference is, since I will be using a little bit of tomatoes, which should be reduced and used very rarely, once in 10 days or so if somebody is healing from a lung condition. Of course, for people in health can have it a little more often, but for somebody healing from a lung condition, to have it less frequently. So since I'm using tomatoes in this dish, I will be using condiments and ginger and curry patta, little more carrots and other veggies, just to balance it and bring in more antioxidants, more anti-inflammatory ingredients into the complete dish. So the same thing can be made in one household and in another household, and it's just the way what you serve it with and how you put it together that make all the difference. And this goes very well with our recipe, the curry patta and sesame chutney. It goes amazingly well with that. Great. So here we have again a heavy based stainless steel wok karhai. As I keep repeating that the way that the food is cooked, the utensils in which the food is cooked also impacts our health. And so we're going to start with, you could make this with sesame oil, cold pressed sesame oil. Sometimes I cook it with coconut oil, but coconut oil should be used a little less often if a person has a very weak condition, whereas if you're recovering and feeling better, you can use that maybe once in 10 days as well. So here I've added some oil and I'm going to simply let the pan get this and begin with adding some jeera. I'm going to test the oil first. It's almost crackling. Going to let it crackle a little more, and now I'll add the jeera. We'll add a little hing. Some curry patta, break it up a little bit. Some ginger. Saute these basic flavors. And then we'll add some onion. Always add a little salt when you add the onions because it brings out the sweetness and takes away the pungency and the smell from it a little bit. It basically adds minerals to the onions and makes them sweeter. And then we can add some tomatoes. So from the 16-18 recipes that we are presenting in this program, only one recipe has tomatoes, and I want you to take that back as a cue of how often or how less the tomatoes should be used in our cooking. As I add the tomatoes, I always add a little salt to, sort of combat their acidic effect, and a little bit of ground turmeric to make it anti-inflammatory as well. Sauteing all of this together, adding in some healthy root vegetables which will help balance our blood sugar, improve our digestion. Mixing it in. Adding some green beans. Adding a little dhania powder. So ground coriander also brings it a nice flavor to this dish, as does the hing and curry patta. And I'm going to bring the flame up a little bit, and now I'm going to add our soaking Kodo millet. So I'm going to add the water from the side, slowly stirring it in, taking the flame a little bit higher, as it can take a higher flame now that we're adding some water. And add the entire Kodo millet to this. So even though it looks like there is a lot of water as opposed to what we would do for, say, suji upma, you'll be surprised that when we see this in about 15 minutes, I'm going to add a little more salt so it gets well mixed in with the flavors. So even though it looks like there's a lot of salt, you'll be surprised that millets actually grow. So for cooking millets, we usually take 1 part millet to about 4 parts water for most millets. That's about 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, depending on what kind of millet it is, and depending on whether you wanted to make it salady or you want to make it like upma, soft and creamy. So in this, we've used about 4 times water for Kodo, and we'll add water as we need it. So I'm going to simply bring this up to a boil. And as it boils, we'll cover and simmer cook this for about 12 to 15 minutes. So as you see a little boil, we're simply going to lower the flame and cover and cook for about 12 to 15 minutes. We can see how it's doing, whether we need a little more water, a little bit of stirring, how it's, whether it's nicely cooked. But that's how long it takes for Kodo to cook, to taste like upma, like a delicious upma. So the millet has been cooking for about 12 minutes, and here we have, oh wow, look at that. So the water has dried up almost, and the millet, the veggies are well cooked, and our upma is ready. It's not burnt at the bottom. So the beauty of cooking well is that you want to cook with the right amount of water. And like in white rice, we usually drain off the water, or in a lot of things we drain off the water. We don't really do that in food that's going to nourish our body. We use the right amount of water and let it condense in a way that is nourishing. So as you can see here, it's perfectly made in that time, and it looks like and has the consistency of upma.